Greetings all, it's Max and we're back. Today we're going to talk about Kazakhstan. I don't know if anyone's actually heard about it in the news. They've kind of been keeping it quiet. As I think I'm titling this The Land of the Free, Home of the Brave out there in Kazakhstan. Now, I keep up on Kazakhstan because I'm in crypto, and that is where all of the Bitcoin miners from China, a lot of them, they went to Kazakhstan and they went to America. So I'm very keen on everything that's going on over there because it affects everything is going to affect crypto mining. And turns out there were some riots. They call them protests. They call them, some evildoers, as the government over there would say. We're burning some buildings and protesting and things. And according to the official narrative, it was because they raised the price of propane. Okay, and that kind of sort of doesn't wash, and I've been kind of piecing together information over the last week to 10 days or so, and I felt it is important enough to kind of bring to people's attention as to what's going on. And this, of course, will come back to the whole narrative of the big state and the whole big operation that's going on to try and get everyone medicated. All right. So before we talk about Kazakhstan, we're going to talk about what's going on in the UK. No more mask and jab mandate. Europe starts considering COVIDs as flu and asks people to live with it. So this was on January 12th. And this comes as an about face. Over there in UK, they've been, if you don't want to get your little passport that says, your cootie safe, if you don't want to get your passport, they lock you up. If you're traveling, much like Australia, if you're traveling around, you got to get all your testing and all your stuff, and really hardcore. And they kind of wanted to step it up. But January 12th, they decided, we're going to do 180 degrees and just say we're not doing anything with the cooties anymore, and we're going to treat it as a cold. And I'm like, hold on a second. The major World Bank is the Bank of London or Bank of England, whatever they call it. That's the Rothschild Bank, right? That's kind of the major head for all these global Federal Reserve banks. And these people are supposed to be paying for this whole operation until 2025. Well, why did Europe throw in the towel? Why did they throw in the towel? It doesn't make any sense at all. I'm mulling this over. And we have this little thing going on over here in Kazakhstan. Okay, so this is from, the beginning of January. Like around the 5th or 8th or so. It was a long time, quote unquote, protest, right? Civil war-like situation. And, a lot of people were getting killed, apparently, and a lot of government buildings were getting burned down. Because, when the gas at the pump over at the Quick Trip goes from $3.50 a gallon to $6 a gallon, immediately Americans take up the torch and go after government buildings and hospitals and banks. It's not, what do banks have to do with what's going on at the pump? I thought it was a propane problem, right? And this is Kazakhstan, where their only real export is petroleum. I can't imagine that the stuff is very expensive over there. And Bitcoin now, of course, petroleum and Bitcoin. So as we go into our first article, we want to get the narrative here. A lot of people probably haven't heard of Kazakhstan except for Borat. That was where Borat was from. Okay, dozens of protesters didn't make it. Police forces and security personnel opened fire on the protesters. 18 policemen have also, got caught up in the violence. And it's a lot more than that. As you can see, the pictures of what's going on. Talks about the history of Kazakhstan being carved out of the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union, Russia, they dropped paratrooped 2,500 to 3,000 troops in there. That actually the people who are the just these protesters, they rounded them up and kicked them out of the country, disarmed them and booted them out. And apparently these protesters had a real problem with the banksters, with doctors, and they burned down the president's house and the mayors of all the different little villages. Seems to me that, yeah, they're mad about gas prices. Now, could it be, as I've done through my research, I cannot confirm anything, but could it be, or so the story is, or the theory or the idea is that there was a lot of, shall we say, oppressive mandates, proclamations by Mr. Dictator over there that said you needed to have a jab pass before you could go to the mall, before you could go to the pub, before you could do any of these things, including going to the bank to get your money. And apparently the bank thing to get your money was kind of a hot button. Now I don't live there and I don't know anybody there. And if you search Google, you ain't going to get nothing on it. But it's out there. It's out there. Keep bringing up BitChute. Might want to go check it out. And I will link a video showing exactly what's going on there in the description. Covering the next article here. Why Kazakhstan crisis is much bigger deal than the Western media is letting on. They won't tell you why the people are in revolt. Now, when you understand and you find out what it seems like, could it be that the people were tired of the cootie nonsense and they started burning down their oppressors' houses? Okay? Not because of propane prices, but because of that, possibly that influenced Boris the moron over there in UK to reverse, because they've been rioting and protesting in the UK and in Germany and in Europe for 2 years. The Kazakhstan people took their stuff back. And as we go through this, I want people out there who potentially know people, or maybe you're in the field of working for the government and you think, oh, I'm the good cop. I don't break the rules and I don't look the other way. Whatever you want to tell yourself. We get in a situation like Kazakhstan where people aren't going to put up with it anymore. You try and explain that to the angry mob when they're looking for people with any sort of uniform on. You're going to think about that. Because the old economy, especially recently in the last few days, is on some shaky ground. And people probably don't want to put up with too much more. Just putting it out there. This did it too. This little guy has been the dictator for Kazakhstan for 30 years. He looks like he's never seen a fight in his life. He looks like a scared little boy in a man's body. And of course, when there's nothing he can do about everybody in his country attacking every government official and burning down all the government buildings, including his house, he fled. But before he fled, he tweeted out to say, shoot all these guys on sight, right? The protesters. So now you've got just doing my job police officers who just get to shoot people pretty well at will, according to orders from their dictator. That went over real well. Who do you think won that fight? You know, the police and the government agents, or the 20-some thousand people that were fighting them in the city? Needless to say, this guy's not in the country anymore. Neither is his family. He fled. He said, yeah, shoot on sight, and left. Unrest leaves behind traumatized society. They don't look very traumatized. They look like they're victorious. For you don't know, in this picture, this is the protesters here that are riding around in an army vehicle, holding up flags. Allegedly. Right? Unrest in Kazakhstan has attracted global attention, but so far, little of it is focused on the cost paid by ordinary citizens. The cost paid. Now, understand, I had to dig all over the internet for these articles to get some sense of the idea of what is really happening, but you still have to read between the lines because all media outlets are state-run. The ones that aren't, they have to throw an obligatory article about the chupacabra and the meteor that's going to impact Earth. Okay, you got the real story, and then you got to talk about the lizard people and the chupacabras. But you can read between the lines. Now, there's nothing in America you're going to get. Okay, ABC News, MSNBC, they all talk about, oh, they're really mad about propane going up in price. So 1 million people out of the country just started burning everything down. Government stuff, mind you. And the banks. They robbed all the banks and burned down all the government buildings. And the police cars. And they weren't very nice to the police that they had there either. Okay, January 2nd, mass protests erupted in Zanazoan, a town in western Kazakhstan, and quickly spread to many other cities, triggered by a spike in gas prices against the background of a long-standing socio-economic grievances. The peaceful protests were met with a violent state response. Okay. The situation escalated with the emergence of rioters, looters, and unidentified non-state armed troops. That would be the men. That would be the men. Or the militia. Even according to this newspaper article, the state escalated it. And the people were like, if you want it that way, we'll do it that way. Allegedly. I'm just piecing things together. Sometimes I get things completely way off, and Jack would know about that. The government claimed these groups have ties to criminal, extremist, and terrorist networks, homegrown and foreign, though without providing any convincing evidence. Well, they tried to, apparently Kazakhstan, a lot of the people there are Muslim, so obviously they're going to pull that out and just say, well, obviously they're doing a jihad. And it's like, no. The state crackdown on peaceful protesters involved the use of water cannons, tear gas, flashing grenades, with some protesters dispersed. At the first sign of escalation, those who stayed were caught in a crossfire between the police, who allegedly used both rubber and regular bullets. I don't think they have rubber bullets over there in Kazakhstan. I think they just have AK-47s and bullets. Non-state armed groups on the night January 4th to January 5th. Fires set in small businesses and grocery stores grew to engulf an entire residential buildings with people trapped inside. Seeing the videos of what's going on, they had a blackout over there as this was going on, because I forgot to mention, allegedly, that beyond targeting government buildings, the police, physicians, doctors, medical people, and banksters, they also burned down the TV station and the media outlets. Allegedly. Yeah, it kind of seems like they may have known who they were going after. And everybody in the country knew who was doing them wrong. Allegedly doing them wrong. The situation endangered ordinary civilians for several more days, with stray bullets occasionally hitting civilians, including children, even at locations far from city centers. January 15th, the Prosecutor General's office announced that there had been a total of 206 civilians dead and 960 wounded, which is sort of interesting because there was a lot more police. There was a few thousand police wounded. So they won, I guess. Officially, 19 security forces were killed and over 3,300 wounded. Yeah. Witnesses' reports have emerged describing beaten up young army conscripts, many under 20. Oh, they're under 20. They're under 20. You can't beat them up for being the strong arm dogs for the New World Order. No, can't. They're too young. They are running away, asking civilians to let them hide in their apartments and office buildings and borrowing civilian clothes. Huh. But I thought they were mad about the gas prices. They weren't mad at the troops. What difference would it make taking off the uniform? Oh, because the people were probably mad at the government and anybody who is just doing their job for the government by shooting people like they felt like it. President said it's okay, just doing my job. President said you can't come out in here without a pass. Just doing my job. You can't take the money out of your bank account. Just doing my job. You know, guys, you don't think there's going to be a reckoning for any of that? People who work in the medical industry and do this stuff? People who oppress people at whatever some place of employment is? People out there who work in law enforcement? You don't think? You think that just doing your job? Are you going to tell the mob that? The mob's going to say, that's why we are here. Mob is going to say, yeah, that's why we're here. Allegedly. A large influx of injured people has overloaded hospitals and put serious strain on medical staff already struggling to cope with the cooties pandemic. Currently showing a 20-fold spike in caseloads over a month. Likely as a result of Omicron. All these countries and everybody is getting paid, of course, to do these tests and to put through these mandates or dictates or whatever they're doing because they're all getting paid. This is how they make their money. Everybody in these dictatorships in these countries, including America, is all on the payroll. They're going to get taken care of, so they think. They don't think they're, you know what, segueing into America, do you think there's maybe possibly a reason Joe Biden has never been to the White House? And that he's always on a set that is made to look like it's the White House? You think that they just put up big fences around the White House and they're going to blame it on that Trump thing? No, it's because they know what they're doing and they don't know what's going to happen with the public. So they're trying to cover their bases. This guy didn't have a big enough fence. The guy who's running this country. He had to leave. Apparently one of the first things that the mob took over was also the airport to make sure that none of these people could flee. Land of the free, home of the brave. Kazakhstan. Three floors of the regional Akumat city halls, that's what that is, in the western city of Aktobe were destroyed. The regional city hall and 3 police buildings were destroyed in Taraz. In Almaty, which saw most of the violence and looting, rioters broke into the city hall, knocked out the doors and windows, threw around documents, and destroyed offices. A fire that broke out on the first floor quickly engulfed the entire building. And a picture of the burned down city hall has become a symbol of, stuff. Buildings used by the, it's scrolling on me. Buildings used by the ruling party and a prosecutor's office were set on fire. A prosecutor's like a judge. What does the judge have to do with gas prices? Tell you, I'm just too conspiratorial. The armed group also took control of several hospitals and the airport. What does a hospital have to do with the cost of propane? I'm just reading the article, guys. You know, I did some work to put these articles together and to have my own crazy, cuckoo, conspiratorial ideas behind things. I think you see it. People took their country back. And we're going to get into why the market is down right now. And of course, we just showed why Europe has had an about face, 180 degrees. We're not doing anything with cooties anymore. We're not touching it. You people are on your own. Bank of England is out of money. You know what that means? It's going to come to America in 6 months too. That'll be the end of it. We've got midterm elections coming up and this and that. But guys, you got to stand up a little bit. A little bit. Still, we get people asking how, they're requiring some sort of testing at their job, or they're requiring some sort of cootie jab at their job. What am I supposed to do about it? And you go, you don't take it. You do the liability thing. You can do this. You can do that. And it's like, well, then they're going to fire me. And I'm like, well, get a different job. I like my job. And it's like, people, you like your job where they want to inject you with an experimental poison, right? Or they want to stick something up your nose or have you wear a cattle feed bag all day long. And you think your job likes you? You think you like that job? It's more healthy for you to go be a prostitute than it is for you to take any of that stuff. Go do that. I like my job. What are you, a police officer? All right. So we were talking about the families of the victims lost breadwinners and are struggling to pay rent and utilities. The government has pledged to compensate the families of deceased law enforcement officers and pay for funerals. The families of the deceased victims of the police officers who were shot, they ain't get nothing. Just saying. You don't think the people recognize that? We're going to have mobs at the people's funerals? Could be. In the aftermath of the unrest, the police have reportedly been wrongly detaining civilians on charges of participation in the riots and looting. Many of them report grave violations of human rights, of course, blah, 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 prolonged interrogation, blah, blah, blah. So in other words, they rounded up some people in force who weren't part of anything just to tell their boss that they got somebody. And, that's unfortunately what happens. Now, why isn't this a bigger story, right? I heard about this. I don't even think it was on Sludge Report. I think it came up with something else. And I looked through it and I kind of put the pieces together. It kind of sounded like maybe Russia wanted to take over the Bitcoin mining farms and things. When you hear about paratroopers going over there and this and that. And you don't really get the whole story. And then you find out this and it's like, oh, the whole thing makes perfect sense. And what the Russian paratroopers did was they were dropped off in there and abandoned, and the people captured them and kicked them out of the country and took their weapons and their trucks and their stuff and whatever they brought with them. Good for them. And that's what's going on there. But what do we actually hear in the news about what Russia is doing? We're hearing something about Ukraine. Like we're going to go to war in Ukraine. No, we're not. Where did that come from? I bet you hear that nonstop on the news for people out there who watch the news or people who read the news. We're going to go to war in Ukraine. No, we're not. Why? Why would we ever go to war in Ukraine? Where did that come from? Okay. We're going to go to war in Tokyo. No, we're not. No, we're not. We're not going to war in any of these places. This is all just a smokescreen to put something in the news because there's nothing else going on in the news. other than Kazakhstan. And the only way to find this stuff in America is to use a VPN and look at some other outlets. Okay? Or you can go up to BitChute or some of these decentralized platforms where you can watch videos on what's going on. And at the end of this, we'll actually watch snippets of a video of what was actually recorded in Kazakhstan. Okay? Like I said, they had a blackout, so for like 2 weeks. But people recorded videos of what was going on. Here's your victorious people. Okay? There's a Victoria. That's what's going on right there. What do we have here? Okay, so this article is from Bringing Kazakhstan to the World. This is from their press, their own dictatorship, government-controlled media. So, this is December 30th, before all this started. Remember, I had first heard that the whole thing was about cooties. After watching the Dollar Vigilante, who everyone should watch, dollarvigilante.com, and he's got his videos up there, or he's on BitChute, Jeff Berwick, where he had brought up this situation, and he was the one who said that it was all based around their mandates or their dictates and about how people couldn't get their money out of the bank. And I'm like, come on. Was that really the case? Could it be? This is from their own media. Kazakhstan considers tightening restrictions as Omipu, moronic variant spreads globally. Tightening cooties restrictions starting from January 5th, 2022 as a result of moronic variant causing global surge in cases. Gotta watch out for them cases. Starting January 5th, citizens who can prove recent recovery from cooties or provide full proof of a full vaccination course will be able to access trade malls and karaoke bars. Okay. The country uses its own system that connects with the database of the Ministry of Health. The Ministry. Words have meaning. To display the status of citizens when they scan a QR code at a venue entrance. The color-coded system can show green or blue or yellow or red. They color code people based on your QR code, and because the whole thing is nonsense, it's probably just random. You go to a bank and they scan your code and it goes, I don't know, it says it's red. I don't know. Officials, those officials that are homeless now, they ain't got a car to drive, probably kicked out of the country. Where's their dictator now? Warn that restrictions could extend to other venues, including banks and post offices, if the moronic variant is confirmed in the country. Hey, officials, how are them going there with your mandates? How is that going? How'd that work out for you? Is the moronic variant, is that eradicated? Yeah. Along with all of your doctors who push that nonsense and all of your police. Even kicked out the Russians. Blah, 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 cooties. Blah, blah, blah. Now this, my friends, is from Kazakhstan. Their own newspaper, December 30th, as to what exactly is going on in the country. Now, could it be that it wasn't a raise in the cost of propane that triggered 1 million people to take up arms and specifically burn down their oppressors' homes, government buildings, their cars, take out physicians and banksters? Could it be that it was a little more of that? What's going on out there in Australia, guys? What's going on in Australia? Are you guys doing anything out there? How about in America? You guys doing anything yet? You're going to wait for Trump to fix it? You're going to wait for Trump to come back and fix it? Oh, no. You guys can read that article for yourself because I can't. I'll probably already get whatever on the old channel, you know. On the old channel. So yeah, this is what you people who think you're just doing your job when you know it's not right. That's what you're going to get. Could it be possibly, allegedly, this is what's going on there? I'm one of the good ones. I'm one of the good ones. I don't mean any harm. I'm just trying to help people. If I don't do it, I'm going to lose my job. I'll lose my job. I have to lock you up in the internment camp. I got a wife and kids to feed. Not when the mob finds you, you don't. No, you don't. No. Key points. Russian paratroopers have been sent in to help quell the unrest. Hey, Putin, how'd that work out for you? How are your troops doing? It says here protests have spread into broader anti-government riots because resentment over 30 years of single-party rule. Well, it's a dictatorship. I don't think that was a secret. I think that people over there knew and understood that what they were living in was a dictatorship. Much like I believe Russians know that they're in a dictatorship because Putin's been there forever. Since what, Yeltsin? Or Gorbachev or something? We in a dictatorship in America too. Because people don't want to accept it. And any of them guys at the top do anything. Putin probably doesn't even run Russia. Come on, guys. So here's your parliamentary office there in the old Kazakhstan. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's dangerous. It's so dangerous over there that people can wander around and take pictures, and you should see how casual the footage of the rioters is. And they want to talk about extreme danger and everybody getting hurt, injured, and all this stuff. And no, when you read these, you understand that it is the government who is incredibly hurt and fearful to the point where they packed their bags and left. Now, of course, they're going to get someone in there who's, I don't know. We'll see what happens with it. But if the people keep their courage and their bravery and their tenacity up, you know, I bet that this place in 5 years is going to be one of the best places to live over there near Russia. Probably be one of the most freest countries out there. The people ain't putting up with it. There'll be people that would be fleeing to this country. You know, it's like there's people that are going to El Salvador to actually be free of the monetary system. We'll have to see what happens. Yeah. What do we have on the next one? Again, this is the Astana Times. This comes from them. It was a short but nasty war. An eyewitness account of the thing. So this is some CIA agent who says, I was there and I'm so glad that the government came back to help and all this stuff, and explains about what was going on. And it's all complete garbage, but there is little elements of truth in it. Since I've been going so long, I really don't want to cover too much of it. It just more or less reiterates the bullet points of how many people were involved, right? So you can kind of cherry pick and kind of grab actual factual information about how many people were involved in these different events and about the specific things that the rioters, the looters targeted. And so like right here, it says it happened amid the news about the seizure of the airport, the city hall, the TV channels, and other strategic facilities. Right, government buildings. That's who was the enemy was. It wasn't they're burning down Target or whatever it was. No, they were targeting banks, government places, and doctors and government officials. They had a pretty long list. You know, you make some little thing where people have to have a QR code before they can get their money out of the bank. What do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen in America? What do you think? So yeah, I don't know. I'll probably put a link in the description. So I want to talk a little bit about the things that are going on because nobody is talking about Kazakhstan on any news media anywhere. You have to look and hunt and search it out because number one, they burned down all of the buildings where the news media and stuff are. So they've also cut off the internet. I would expect it's still down so that you can't, everything is isolated inside there and people are probably emailing links to private servers and things like that to get video out. Because there's not a lot of video out of what's going on either. But what is going on right now? Well, I'll tell you what's going on right now. So happens to be January 12th. Just coincidentally. Coincidence. You know what else is a coincidence? The market tumbling down and down and down to the lowest point in like 40 years or something like that. Our inflation is the highest it's been in 40 years. And the market supposedly now, because the Federal Reserve said a few days ago that they may consider raising interest rates slightly. Now, keep in mind, we're at negative interest rates now, where the Federal Reserve pays companies like Disney to take out loans. Okay. Or if they don't pay them outright to take out loans, they charge them 0.25% interest, which is basically the same thing. Because if you give somebody $1 billion over a 30-year time frame and you charge them 0.25% interest, the inflation rate is 7%. So that is a negative interest rate. The interest rate would have to be above 7% right now in order to actually have a real interest rate. Otherwise, it is negative. That gets off into economic stuff, and we don't want to go into that. So anyway, supposedly, every single market in America tanked by 15% because supposedly just because the Federal Reserve said we might raise rates a little bit to try and get a handle on inflation. Triggered an absolutely gargantuan massive sell-off, right? It had been selling off a little bit since the beginning of the year, but this right here, oh, look, January 12th. This same day that the EU says, we're not going to do anything with cooties anymore. Look over here. Don't look over at Kazakhstan. The markets tanked completely. Every market. I don't mean just crypto. I mean everything. Now, it begs the question, where does all this money go? Because typically when people are invested in things, you would take it out of something that's risky and put it into something that is less risky. Well, cryptocurrency, of course, is high risk, but crypto just collapsed too. Where did all the money in crypto go? Crypto down by 30%, while Bitcoin by 20% in like a couple of days. Where did all that money go? Did it go to someone's bank account? Was there somebody propping up the entire system? Was there somebody maybe playing and gaming the market a little bit so people are more focused on what their IRA and 401k and all that is doing as opposed to looking at what's happening in Kazakhstan? Maybe. You can fill up the news coverage with nothing but economic, oh, you're losing money in your 401k. The NASDAQ is down. Dow is down. Crypto is down. Oh, the old hedge against inflation. We got gold. Gold is down. Gold is down. Gold has been so manipulated that over the last 10 years, it's not even keeping up with inflation on the dollar. But particularly, it has been going down just in the last few days. Where is this money going? Right here, we had a little bit of a spike, and it you know, when you scroll out, it's not that big of a deal, but it's like it's going down. Like, so money just left every single market everywhere. Where did it go? Because the dollar is very weak too. Where does this money go? Does this money exist? Or is the whole thing just kind of made up? Is the whole thing just kind of a big manipulation? I don't know. Because all of the news in the crypto market has been extremely positive. There is nothing at all wrong in the crypto market. At the end of the year, people taking profits, whatever. 2021 was a good year for a lot of things. People taking profits, not a big deal. But why is the price getting pulled down now? Why is the stock market all of a sudden just absolutely crashing? I mean, a rough day for the stock market is going down 4%. You have traders that want to jump out of the window because they've lost so much. Just the market going down 4%. It went down like 12 to 15%. 12 to 15. It's like unheard of in 10 years. This is I mean, the last one was the first cootie virus outbreak in 2020, or when they announced it. Everything dumped by like 50% for one day, right? But beyond that, it's been a very long time that the stock market has actually been down. I kind of think that that's a little flag that says, hey, look what I'm doing over here. We're crashing the markets. Don't look over there, Kazakhstan. Don't look over there. Don't look at those people taking their country back. Ooh, 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 ooh. Sis, boom, ba. Oh, your 401k is going away. Ooh. I think that's what it is. This is obviously the market's not going to stay down. It's not. The tech sector is down by like 30%. Netflix is down by like 20%. What did Netflix do to anybody? They made a profit last year, a good profit. Down by 20% for no reason. It doesn't make any sense. None. Of course it's going to come right back up. Of course it is. It's midterm elections too. All the boomers out there, hey guys, your retirement depends on the stock market. The stock market ain't going to crash. They're going to keep printing money to keep that thing propped up until you get your nice central bank digital currency, and then they'll pull the rug out. All right. It's all just a bunch of nonsensical stuff. Anyways, I'm going to play a short clip here, I think, about one of the few videos I could find here on Kazakhstan.
All right, Kazakhstan falls to the people. NWO COVID pass free zone. There's an internet blackout in Kazakhstan right now. The stories of the uprising being because of gas prices are BS. The police, politicians, army, and doctors have all fled the country or joined the people. The real reason is because the government stopped unvaxxed using banks. The people said no to the COVID pass. People unite. Now that's the video you just witnessed, I do believe. No, I'm sorry. We're gonna watch this video here at the end. I'm gonna end this video with that video right there.
So these are various reports, like people will come out in comments, probably on Reddit or something, or wherever someone can get an internet signal or email or whatever people can do. People are pretty resourceful to get messages out. I personally buy that wholeheartedly as what's going on. And all the little pieces that I've been able to pull apart seem like that is exactly what's going on. and for the fact that they said specifically that they're targeting doctors and banksters. Well, what do doctors and banksters have to do with the cost of propane, right? Propane. In a country that their primary production is fuel, right? You would think that the propane and the gasoline there is probably pennies, right? They don't have water that comes out of the faucet. They just open it up and there's propane that comes out, right? That's what it's Kazakhstan. So that's what I think about that. And we can see, we'll play a little bit of some of the stuff that's the different videos that have come out. This guy pieced together several of them. The people playing with the police tear gas, I guess. There are people rounding up the police, telling him to get out. Yep, they found one. Off they go. Tell you, I don't want to be on the wrong side of the mob here. I don't know. The people look pretty happy. They don't look like they're super unruly rioters and things like that. Yeah. Meanwhile, Australia. Yeah, so I do want to mention about, you had the old Black Floyd thing. They tried to make into a big race deal and a big deal about, oh, he was just a racist that did this terrible thing to this fine, upstanding, dark-skinned man in Minneapolis. And the black people understood who did it, right? I know that there was a lot of BLM people in there and a lot of controlled little parties and controlled things. I mean, everybody's got to get a piece of the action, right? Everybody's got to get George Soros. Everybody's got to get their little piece of the action. You got to have BLM go in there and burn everything down so you can go in and get everything for pennies on the dollar. But amongst that, you also had actual legitimate people who are angry with the government, who is actually the real criminal who killed George Floyd. Okay? The government. Whether or not the guy existed or was an actor or whatever, it doesn't matter. We'll go with the actual narrative. It wasn't just a racist cop guy. That's hilarious because you had an Asian guy there and a half black lady there who were watching him do it. They're all wearing uniforms. And then a month after that, you had a senior sergeant trainer police officer in Brooklyn Center shoot somebody because their tabs on their car was expired. Okay? The black people in Minneapolis burned down the police stations. Okay? Is that an appropriate response? Could it be? I don't know. It's good enough for Kazakhstan. But understand that your enemy is not, your dweeb manager at some corporation you work for, right? It's not the, Susie the nurse, the head nurse at the hospital. Where do all these things come from? They come from the government. That's the focus on. Right? And be mad at whatever store you work for that they got some stuff going on. You have to fight those battles individually. Remember where it's coming from. Who has the power to enforce this stuff? Who has all of that? You do. And your neighbors. The people have the power. You might think the government's all big and mighty, but 30 years dictatorship in Kazakhstan was completely overthrown in a week with help from other countries trying to prop it up and trying to keep it going. 1 week. And America is a little bit better armed than Kazakhstan. a little bit. Just say it. Understand what's going on in the world, and don't just assume whatever they tell you is the way that things are, because it's not. It's not. It took a lot of scouring and a lot of poking around to get this information, but I wouldn't have even been aware of the cooties pass being even a thing would it not been for Dollar Vigilante Jeff Berwick and his videos. He talks about it once a week. He does videos where he basically, this is what he talks about, is what's going on around the world with these different things and how to leave the country and how to go to these other places. You know, he's an anarchist and all this. You understand, that's appears to be allegedly what happened. And it appears to be that was the response and the reason for the people's uprising. Allegedly, could it be? Yeah, people are going to let them get that far? Where you can't get into a bank unless you have some sort of a pass? Right? You'll accept it when it's at the airport, though. You'll accept it because people need to have their pass when they get on the airport. They need to have their identification in case people get box cutters and get on side, or maybe they have a firecracker in their shoe. Come on, people. Come on, people. So I've droned on enough with wild conspiracy theory ideas and with what I've pieced together. And, you know, what is the importance of this? The importance of this is because I've touched on it, and I don't think anyone else has even talked about it that isn't also talking about space aliens and meteorites that might hit the planet and blah, blah, blah. So what you gather from this is that there is actually people who aren't mind-controlled zombies out there. There is actually some hope. And these aren't crazy, wild, wicked people. These are people who put up with oppression for 30 years. Right? And then finally it's like, I can't get my fiat, my worthless fiat out of my bank account. Well, we'll see about that. And I just want to point out to the people that are in these positions who might be the overlords who show up to somebody's, who shows up to a business because somebody won't put their mask on. Or, somebody has a little issue with their cootie pass or whatever. And you might be responding to that situation. Or you might be the one doling out the tests or giving the jabs or something like that. Yeah, you remember that the people of Kazakhstan did not forget who you were. They did not forget. They didn't forget where you lived. According to the story, they burned down the mayor's houses. Allegedly. Why hasn't Joe Biden been to the White House? Why was there big fences around the thing? You know? Why are they doing a 180 degrees on the whole business over there in Europe? I don't know. I'm just a crazy conspiracy theorist. And I'll also add, just so we can add a Christian flair to this, is that do you expect, if you were in one of these positions where you're oppressing people and you're just doing your job, or I got a wife and kids to feed, or any of these nonsensical excuses you tell yourself, do you expect God to protect you from the mob when the reckoning comes for what you did? And I'm not talking about your eternal place in heaven if you're saved. I'm talking about what you're doing here to other people. Or do you think it's more eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth in the world? I don't know. I was going to say the main reason, apparently it doesn't affect a lot of people, but the reason that I'm not a wild loose cannon, or maybe perhaps more of a wild loose cannon, and had, a little bit of pullback, is the fact that if I did something wrong to somebody else, I would be worried of what they would do to me. You know, like if I happened to be a prison guard and I was constantly giving a person crap and getting a power trip and bullying and doing these things, I would be worried about the reckoning for when that guy got out of prison. And maybe that guy, you know, maybe I wouldn't have a home to come home anymore because he's out. Gasoline is cheap. And people just don't seem to think about that. They just think, I got away with it because the government didn't get me. Oh man, the government in a lot of these countries is the last thing you'd have to worry about. The government actually is protecting the criminals. They are the criminals. Allegedly, could it be? Not in America. These other places. Right? Those other places, not in America. With that, we're going to be out of here.